Wichtig, dass er sagt, dass eine Solution schon da ist. Nicht, dass wir einfach nur drüber reden. Leute, arbeiten wir dran.
Ja. Gif. Bock.
Hi, my name is Yogi Klatt.
Hi, Yogi.
I'm a
Yogi.
gameplay programmer in the vehicle feature team. I'm here with Rich
Guck mal, was der
Thaler,
Yogi da trägt.
David Colton,
Gleiche wie unsere Orga.
Jed Talbot, and Johnny Young. And today we're gonna talk to you about the upcoming changes to the flight systems and the combat systems, which are done specifically for Squadron 42, but which will eventually find their way to the persistent universe.
Irgendwann vielleicht mal gucken, wissen wir noch nicht, aber let's go.
We want to define ship roles for the game because every role in itself and every ship can offer unique gameplay opportunities for individual players.
We want to provide a lot more variety to the gameplay in Star Citizen, a lot more opportunity for different careers, different responsibilities, and different sort of perspectives and views on gameplay where people contribute different types of work and different types of jobs.
Star Citizen is supposed to be a big expansive game with giving the players lots of chances to have a variety of different experiences. It's not just about combat, it's not just about an economy, it's not just about piracy, it's about all of those things happening at the same time. So we need ships that can act and function in different ways to support all of those different goals.
In trying to figure out these roles and define what they are and make the gameplay for them, we started very heavily leaning toward combat, mostly because combat is a mechanic that is very widely applicable throughout the
Ausrufezeichen
game.
Toby.
And the principles behind it apply to various other roles.
Ich habe gerade einen Eye-Tracker da
We've been
in
working
Action gesehen.
away in the S42 branch, and this has really allowed us to isolate these ships. So we're kind of broken it down into archetypes. Yeah, It's really allowed us to kind of break down what these ships do, you know. And also, it's to make sure that when we are defining these roles and balancing these roles, that we're putting the ships in the right place, because we don't want the ships to be like, you play this ship, it means you dominate this part of the game. That there's always got to be plus and minuses, so the balance is right. So there's still some crossover between the ships.
Ja,
so
bisher, wieso haben sie dann die Gladios draußen, ne? Also,
You know, it isn't just a win.
We have already defined several ship roles, and they're usually known as light, medium, and heavy fighters. Light fighters for us are fighters which are very dominant in the area of 1 versus 1 PvP combat.
But they come with a downside, because obviously the light, which means the materials chosen on the ship, are probably not the strongest. So it's more about the attack. It's more about trying to outposition and get in there and attack and get out of the situation.
Heavy fighters are kind of the opposite. They're not supposed to be really good at 1 versus 1, but they excel at N versus N engagements, so when we have group battles. Medium fighters for us, internally we call multi-role fighters, because they have a lot of hard points, so they have a lot of loadout flexibility. So a player can tune them to the role whatever they want, but they will never reach the performance of dedicated ships.
A lot of the medium fighters sometimes come with a turret as well, so they've got that additional gameplay of the turret, which is aimed to kind of counter the lack of maneuverability that those ships have.
And then additionally to that, we have racing ships, which are basically just really fast at changing the velocity vectors. And interceptors, which we basically just want to go very fast in the forward area, but never reaching really the performance envelope of dedicated dogfighters.
Interceptors are designed to kind of catch up to ships and disable them. So they come with kind of advanced kind of hardware on these ships.
Bombers, on the other hand, are, well, they're just slobbing heavy ordnance at larger targets, so you use them to take out bigger ships. But they're not really good at, well, killing small fighters. And then from smaller ships coming to larger ships like Constellation and up, we want to change the gameplay to be less about positional combat, but more going into the naval style of combat, where it's important to show the correct shield and fire arcs and timing your shots over long distances.
So the purpose of ship roles is to really help players understand what ships should be used and when they should be used. And it's really about delivering on those kind of gameplay promises that we've been talking about, you know, over the past, kind of several years.
If every ship is the same, it's not fun. But if we have dedicated ships with dedicated pros and cons, then we can create very exciting combat environments. And the biggest challenge we see in order to get that gameplay we want is the current speed that we have in combat.
It's a subject we've talked about many, many times in the past. And it's something we've tried many things with. You know, we've tried limiting things at speed, we've tried adjusting handling at speed. We've tried so many things to kind of manage the negative impact of speed on combat.
When ships are going fast in combat, they usually just end up very far apart, which is not very interesting. And it just devolves into jousting very quickly, which is also not very interesting.
The second you create a longer distance between you and the target, your angular requirements to maneuver to that target are just extremely small. And this is a very obvious math reason why high-speed combat is kind of the opposite of what we want to achieve, meaning meaningful and effective positional maneuvering.
We want the combat to be closer and to be more turn-oriented, so rotations should matter more than just flat speed.
Having very high speeds that are pretty much the same between all ship classes negates a lot of the opportunity for smaller ships to flex different types of gameplay.
Another big issue with the speeds in combat is it's very hard to keep players engaged in the combat because players can move so far so quickly in such a short space of time. It's quite hard to keep a track on your opponent.
So you might think, oh, why don't we just make the ship slower and call it a day? Well, we can't do that.
The main reason we can't just make everything slower is the size of the Star Citizen world. We've got huge planets where we need to go from the planet's surface up into space. We need to transverse between different systems.
wäre auch kompletter Käse.
So essentially, we can't have just low speeds all of the time.
There's a massive universe out there to explore. There's planets to explore. And the feelings we want to capture with the speed, we still want an element of danger that you can still go too fast in lots of situations.
We have tried an awful lot over the past few years with what are called soft speed caps, where there is no speed cap on ships, but we encourage gameplay to occur at a lower speed. But it doesn't really work because the advantages of flying fast in terms of defense is just better.
So since the last year, the focus of Vehicle Feature Team shifted very heavily towards Squadron 42 and nailing down the flight and space combat.
Bei ihm muss ich übrigens sagen, dass man seinen deutschen Akzent nicht so super krass
finally
raushört.
found a really
Ja,
good
schon
working
lange da, das hört
solution
man auch,
that
dass
we're going to show
halt
today.
viel kommunizieren muss auf Englisch jeden Tag.
So the main idea is to simply not have combat and long-range travel at the same time. So we're splitting these gameplay experiences. This will be done by a thing which is called master modes. A master mode is a thing that is globally applied to your ship. And we have two of them. We have SCM, which is now relabeled as standard control mode, and QCM or QM for quantum mode.
The idea is that between these two modes, we can constrain the speeds in combat and also get all of the maneuvering, like high speed maneuvering and traversal mechanics that we had before, but in these distinct modes that are integrated with lore and integrated with the ship functions, such that there's costs and payoffs for being in each of the two modes.
So let's start with standard control mode and what this means. So this is the mode that we intend to be the functional mode of the ship, whether it's combat or mining or any of these kind of core kind of things the ship does. We want the player to do these things in this mode. And what this does is it reduces the speed of the ship, but it also enables the shield to be turned on. And obviously the intent behind this is where you do your combat. It's where the guns are on, the missiles can be armed and fired, and all the kind of operational things the ship does operates within this mode.
The speeds that you can reach in SCM are somewhat limited, somewhere between 200 and 300 meters per second, tuning pending.
Geil.
But this is basically the hard cap, which you cannot not really exceed. You can slightly exceed this by using boost, but you cannot maintain any velocity beyond that SCM limit for a longer period of time.
So we're thinking of this as some kind of energy management system, so you can go a little bit faster with a little bit more accelerations when you need to, but you know that it is a limited resource and you should use it carefully.
Specifically, the boost space is interesting for space combat because that boost space is not spheric as it was before. You can boost the fastest if you're going forward on a straight line, and you have a lot of debuffs when you're trying to boost backwards. That alone gets us a lot of interesting maneuvering space and variation in the day-to-day dogfight maneuvering, so to speak.
Importantly, you don't have your quantum drive available in this mode. The idea is that quantum is restrained to the quantum traversal mode.
The second mode is quantum control mode, or QCM or QM. What this mode does is it unlocks your maximum velocity that your ship can reach. So when you were limited before to 200 to 300 meters per second, now you can go to 1200, 1400 meters per second, whatever your ship allows you.
During the development of the quantum mode, we realized we needed something that was a little bit more kind of about traveling large distances, but not the distances that you need to, speed up your quantum drive and travel across the universe. So we've created this feature called Quantum Boost, which is available in the quantum mode, and you can access it at any point. So at any point you want to kind of boost towards your location that you're kind of looking at, but it's just too far away. And this boost is available for a limited amount of time.
Wie geil
and
ist das
purely
denn?
on a straight
Das
line.
Lenken.
Just to give you like a ballpark, Quantum Boost will allow you to go to a target fast if it's within, let's say, 50,000 kilometers, whereas you will use Quantum Travel to do very long-range jumps between planets. So Quantum Mode allows you to go very, very fast with up to like 1,200, 1,400 meters per second when you want to zip really fast over a planet. It also allows you to do Quantum Boost to quickly go between points of interest, which are rather close to you. And it allows you to travel long distances between planets and large-scale stellar objects. But it comes at a cost. Your capacitor systems are non-functional because they interfere with the quantum bubble that is allowing you to go fast.
That's okay.
You won't have shields. Your shields will collapse right away when you swap into quantum mode. Your weapons will stop working because anything that's firing outwards of your ship will disintegrate the quantum bubble. Your countermeasures won't work, and you will also not be able to use thruster boost. So basically all your capacitor and combat-related systems are turned off instantly.
Geil.
When you switch between modes, there'll be a little period of time where everything has to spool up and change. So you will lose your shields during this, you won't have your weapons during this.
Genau,
you also
damit du halt
won't be
nicht
going
einfach
fast.
rausskippen
So
kannst
there's
aus dem
a
Kampf. Das finde ich
risk-reward
super.
element when
Weißt du,
you
was
need
das
to switch
Geilste
modes.
ist?
So it's going to be a very kind
Wenn
of
du
conscious
interdicted
choice of
wirst,
what mode
sind
you
deine
should be
Schilde
in
aus.
at any particular point.
Ja.
So if you feel the threat,
Das heißt, man
of
interdiktet
someone else close
jemanden,
by, you're not quite
haut
sure what
sofort
their
mit
intention is,
Sucker
maybe
Punch und so
switch
weiter
to
drauf
control mode and be safe. Or
und
you can switch
hat
to
dann
quantum mode
sehr,
and
sehr
escape.
schnell auch das Schiff vom
And
anderen
this
aus,
is
egal
gonna
wie
kind of
groß es
bring in
ist.
an element of danger and an element of risk.
Also
Because,
Interdiction ist noch mal
going into the two
gefährlicher, als
different
ich mir
modes
es
is
gedacht habe.
like a
Dann.
systemic thing within the ship's items. We actually have the opportunity now to define ship roles that can block people from escaping, either using devices that suppress the quantum
Geil.
bubble or devices that can
Auch mehr Gründe
effectively
für eine gratis Blut.
interfere with your ability to transfer between the modes. For example, specific ships like interceptors can be tuned such that they have a higher standard control mode speed, so they're able to catch up with people. Or, for example, make the swap between the modes faster and more efficiently, so that they could catch up with you,
Sowas wie eine
go into
Arno
standard
Merchant
control
Man
mode
wird wahrscheinlich
and
auch
attack
schnell
you
springen,
more
hin und her
effectively
swappen können, weil
as
sie ein
per the
dedizierter
properties of
Blocket
their
Runner ja
ship
ist.
versus another ship,
Hab
which
ich auch gerade
might
gedacht,
not be
sowas wie
as
die
good
Herald
doing
bestimmt
something
auch.
like that.
Ja.
It's something
Die
that's
kommen schon einfach
fundamentally
bestimmt weg.
changed the gameplay experience.
Das
for us.
ist das Geilste
And this is
überhaupt.
working now, and we're playing it every
Wann?
day in the studio. We're refining it. We're
Wann?
tweaking bits here and there, but we're at that stage now where we're tweaking and balancing. And we've got the core features. It's there in the game playable, and the difference it's made on the game for us is it's basically night and day.
Because the speeds have been limited in standard control mode, suddenly fights are a lot closer.
Yeah.
The accelerations of ships similarly have been retuned a little bit, and their afterburner strength has been retuned a little bit to make it so that you can orbit around ships and have a lot more interesting maneuvering. And because the ranges are closer, maneuvers that would be performed by your ship have a much more significant impact because you're closer. So if I thrust up or down, you'll immediately see the difference. So similarly, things like capital ships.
Das ist genau das, was ich
effectively
gesagt
get a
habe.
buff to their
Sobald dieser
offensive
Patch
capabilities
draußen
with this
ist,
change,
werden
because
Leute,
suddenly you
die
can't orbit a
fliegen
capital ship
können,
at
werden
high range and high
auch mal
speeds.
3, 4
You
Leute
have to get a lot
ausschalten können.
closer, which will make the
Weil
turrets
da trennt sich dann die
much more
Spreu vom
effective at
Weizen, wenn die
shooting.
Leute nicht mehr
Turrets
aneinander
become more
vorbeijausten wie
important,
Geistesgestörte,
and
sondern
working
wenn
as a
sie
group
fliegen können.
to attack capital ships is
Das
more
wird
important
richtig
than it has
geil.
been before.
Das wird richtig geil. Ich hoffe halt wirklich, dass sie sowas wie einen Webber noch reinbringen, dass wenn man
This is a
jemanden
really exciting
interdiktet, dass der nicht einfach
change because it allows
rausboosten
us to
kann wieder.
keep the combat speeds relatively low, where we know that the gameplay is better
Oder dass
for
wenn
that,
jemand
while
interdiktet
also
wird, dass
keeping the
vielleicht sofort sein
point-to-point
Combat-Mode, der
travel speeds
SCM,
as high
eingeschaltet
as they
wird.
should be
Und er
for
dann
the-
erst quasi
Playing
diesen
with Master
Mode
Modes in
wechseln
Squadron
muss, was ja
42
eine
has
Zeit
been a lot of
dauert.
fun.
Und bis
Simply
dahin hat
because
man
it's
ihn vielleicht schon
changed
aus.
the entire combat
Weil er ja auch kein
experience.
Schild
Before,
am Start
you'd
hat.
find that you were fighting
Also
at
wir
a
müssen
huge
unbedingt
distance.
Interdictions dann
Now
machen.
you find that you're in really tight, close combat with the other players.
Geil.
I think the biggest part of this is going to be when we have the larger ships interacting with the smaller ships.
Ja, wollte ich gerade sagen, das hat er gerade eben gesagt,
big capital ships and smaller ships,
dass du jetzt halt dann auch mehr Fokus drauf legen musst. Wenn du die großen Schiffe zerstören willst, brauchst du ein dediziertes Schiff dafür. Du kannst es nicht mehr mit jedem Jäger machen, weil die Jäger sind zu langsam dafür.
Ja, vor allem kannst du nicht mehr mit einem, weiß ich nicht, mit einer Gladius an einer Hammerhead dranhängen, weil die Hammerhead genau dediziert für so Schiffe ist und du dann halt einfach draufgehen wirst und nicht mehr mit 1000 um das Schiff einfach drumherum gehen kannst. Geil! Oh, was? Gibt uns ein Wann? Please.
Try and really create the experience we want. But the reality is, from us, it came down to what it always does in CitizenCon, which is creating choice for the players. It's about giving players the option, and their choices have consequences. So with master modes, it really helps define the player choice in the game. So they're choosing to do combat. They're choosing.
Du hast recht, ja. Oder wie gesagt, dann halt mit 5 Sucker Punch direkt drauf und ihn schnell ausmachen.
It's a really magical thing.
Oh mein Gott.
Genau
das habe ich mir gewünscht. Genau das.
Da war
gerade eine Ballista, hast du gesehen?
But we always end up coming back to the fact, let's just give the players the choice and let them make the key decisions, and we'll design the balance around that.
We finally have it. So we're now nailing down the space combat experience for Star Citizen, specifically for Squadron 42. We know from internal playtest that the master mode stuff works. We know that it works with our flight retunings, and it's very exciting. It will yet take a while to ship this to the PU because the amount of ships you fly in Squadron 42 is rather limited, whereas in Star Citizen we have about, more than 100 ship records at the moment. But the whole hard problem of designing this thing in the first place is over. We just need to get the numbers in now.
And all the footage you've seen today is from Squadron. It's all currently playable in the game. That internally, we're playing this every day. We're still making some tweaks, but everything is there right now. It's all about the foundational kind of tweaks that we're making, and we can't wait to get it in your hands.
So thanks a lot for listening to us today. We're very, very excited to get the changes to you as soon as possible. And we'll hope to see you fighting in the verse.
Werden wir.
All right, so I've got, out of everything here, I've got all the chicks on Nyx.
Oh, that's what's cool.
Lando Fever.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
What do you got, Brian?
Wow. Who is most likely to win in a dogfight?
Okay.
An Ortwin.
Ortwin. Shout out to Ortwin. It's been a long time.
Hey, Ortwin.
My one is, my cargo hold is always full of Chris Roberts.
Really? Show the camera.
There you go.
Ah. Right. That's Vandal Against Humanity, a game created by one of our own Star Citizen, one of the original Star Citizens, Mr. Ken Shadow. We still got it. It made the trip to UK, and we are playing
Vandal Against Humanity.
Session, so thank you again, Ken Shadow. John, I dropped the cards. This is gone. Talk to me about this segment we just watched. Is this BS, or do we actually have it?
I think we've got it. The team's been super hard at work for quite a long period of time on this. We've gone through, I don't know how many versions of this. We've sort of run out of interesting names to call all the development builds. We're on to fish names now. It's been a lot of work put into this, a lot of testing internally, like across the company, not just within our team, getting them all on board, getting them playing it, feeding back.
And I know we don't generally do when questions, but this is a pretty big change to the overall flight experience. Mm-hmm. Folks have been waiting for this fix for a while. Yeah. We're not talking about tomorrow or next week or give us why isn't this just going to be put into the theme tomorrow?
2 factors. We started doing this for Squadron because naturally, to have a great flight experience in Squadron, you need it to all work together. So we're focused on Squadron first for that, and Squadron has a much smaller subset of ships than the PU has. It's a lot easier to do a system like this, get the broad strokes in, and then really dial it in for 6 or 7 ships versus the hundreds in the PU. So it's a scale thing that stops it going in the PU straight away. And then the other thing is lots of it ties in together with other systems. So it's not just flight mechanics, it's UI, HUD,
Ich höre hier
radar,
20,
star map,
25.
quantum changes, and you have to get all of that together in one. We can't really piecemeal it. You just won't get a great experience if we go, well, here's one bit of it, here's another bit later. We want to drop it in one big deployment.
Are we going to drip feed ships and like this ship's done and then this ship's done, or do you think more together all at once?
Yeah, what Brian said.
We have to do like a broad tuning across the board for everything. Day one for when this goes into the PU. Hopefully by then a lot of those will be really where we want them. That, as with game development, then constant is change. There will be ones that change over time.
Oh, you changed the camera. To my camera.
There'll be ones that keep going, and obviously community feedback's a great thing. It's very hard to get things right out the gate. There's only so much internal testing you can do. We need that feedback at that point.
And I do want to say to folks who are watching, wherever you're watching, the 6 to 7 ships in Squadron was not a confirmation that there are only 6 or 7 ships in Squadron. We'll confirm that stuff much closer. Just if you're already halfway through your Reddit post, just delete a couple times and. All right, you ready to move on to the next thing?
Absolutely.
All right, so we've been bouncing back and forth.
Sie haben kein When
between,
gesagt.
you know, really hot visuals
Lassen
with the
Sie.
planets of Pyro,
Exakt,
and then gameplay stuff with investigations, and back to the really hot visuals with the underground facility, then back to the solid gameplay stuff with the
Weit
flight
nach
experience.
4.0 habe ich daraus
Up
gehört.
next is another really solid visuals thing. Lorville. Beat me at camera
Redux,
one.
ja.
Lorville. Star Citizen's first landing zone. We've learned a lot since it was first put in. We've built Microtech, New Babbage. We've built Orizon on Crusader. We even went back and redid Area 18 on ArcCorp. But Lorville currently stands as the oldest standing landing zone in Star Citizen. And with our new team at Turbulent and ready to kick butt, and I was going to say kick names and take butt, and I almost messed that up, and then I messed it up trying to explain that I didn't mess it up. They're getting ready, they're already underway building a brand new Lorville Redux. So we'll send it on over to Eric Gagnon and Maxime Guidon. I had it, I was so close.
So close.
And they can tell you all about it. Ooh, and Ian Leland, check it out.
Ich bin so traurig gerade.